cameras.
Recording in progress.
Okay,
All right,
what are you?
okay. Welcome to our
Okay.
Larkspur Library Board Meeting. Time is 6:04 PM, Monday, June 10th, and roll call. Amir Mulafagi present.
Ahmed Solomon, present.
Jeff Gunderson present. We have, first item is the approval of our consent calendar. No consent items on there. I need a motion to,
Motion to approve an empty consent calendar.
I would second. Okay. All right, all the ayes? Aye, there we go. All right, ayes will have it. All right, so third, any public comment? No one here, no one on the Zoom, I assume?
No comments from email either before.
Okay. All right, next up, we have board member reports and comments. And I know we have one of the items is the feedback from the design team meeting. Is that something we want to cover as part of the board report, or do we want to wait on that one?
I think we could wait, but if the board would like to discuss it now in the reports, I think we could do it either way, whichever.
But I don't have anything else to report,
I don't either. Okay,
so we can jump to 6-1.
all right. I think 6-1. Oh, I think we have directors or report.
that's
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to give a few little brief updates. From a budget perspective, we're gonna be losing some electronic resources from the state. I don't think they've been heavily used by the Larkspur community, but during September on our website, you'll notice we have a few that are labeled California State Library. And they're mostly like learning resources that people learn into, like North Star, Learning Express Library, Brain Fuse, which is a live homework helper. For live homework help, it looks like MarinNet, which is a consortium of libraries in Marin. I think MarinNet's going to purchase the live homework help for the whole county. We're going to decide that in August and use reserve funds to purchase it. And we'll be able to kind of hop on. Larkspur last year, our library patrons had 101 uses, which was very low. But the county and San Rafael had like 10,000 uses. So the more people who get it together, so kind of for the good of the order, will contribute to it. And maybe some of the 100 people who used it might benefit too. And then also we're going to lose access. Marina decided to drop the Wall Street Journal because of low usage primarily, not really a budget thing. So that'll be going away at the end of this month. So we'll find out if anyone
Complaints.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to highlight real quick, Luca Collier, who's a part-timer for us, and you might know him on the desk. He's going to be leaving at the end of June, and he's going to go start school at San Francisco State.
Okay.
So it'll be down a little bit, but not too much because we hired the new librarian. And then also wanted to highlight on Saturday, we had a program with about 65 people with Dewey Livingston presenting about the land usage of the marshes of Larkspur.
Yeah.
We were at standing capacity, actually. We ran out of chairs, which again highlights why we need a new library. I think we could have had like 100 people for it. Yeah. And it was well received, an hour and 15 minutes, and probably could have kept going. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight for the board, Corte Madera is going to go through a remodeling project. There was a Marin IJ article today. We're talking to Corte Madera about services. They're going to be closed during August, so that will probably have some sort of impact on our services. And then they'll probably have modified hours in the fall. So we'll just kind of see what.
Yeah, I was looking at the circulation numbers, and it's like August was a peak, August and January.
Yeah.
Kind of seems like maybe not the best time for us to ingest.
You have to pick up the slack for Corte Madera.
And just maybe some staffing.
Well, what's
Yeah.
interesting, I think, is for the other libraries, except maybe Stinson Beach in Marin County, August is a lower circulation time.
Right.
Mostly it's June and
Yeah,
July for the
yeah,
kids, but
vacation, yeah.
I guess the kids come back and
Right.
get their last reading in. I don't know,
Yeah.
an interesting, And even, you probably, even like in 1819,
Right.
August was a big month.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it'd be interesting just to look at the weeks in August and understand whether it was like, to your point, it was just like the week before school started that people kind of went.
Oh, that's good, we should
Yeah.
do that, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
Wow.
point.
Just to see if it's the whole month,
Right.
if it's distributed even.
Yeah, so that's kind of my oral report, unless you had any other kind of questions or comments I
Do
could.
you have
address.
any, idea how much the closure of Corte Madera is going to impact, circulation here? And do you need volunteers? Do you need to see that?
You know, it'll be interesting, because during, Corte Madera's closed probably twice in the last, since probably 16 or 17 for a month or two. Once was during COVID, so that was a little different. I would guess we're gonna probably see some holds transferred over here. But also, I think because our hours are so small, in terms of what other libraries offer, it may not have a huge impact that it would be like if we were in the new library and get longer hours. I think other people might go to, like Marin City would be closer, or the Civic Center, San Rafael, where they're open 11 hours a day. I don't know, we'll see, probably we do have people who go to both locations, and I do know the caregivers who do story times.
I was more thinking in terms of programs and just, picking up than circulation.
The programs were a little slower on programs. We'll do story times in August, but our big summer brunt will be over.
Okay.
But we did talk, I mean, we'll see, this is a little speculative. We may add, this is kind of jumping, I don't know if we'll do it 100%, but we may add a story time in the park, like it for one day in August. If staffing works, and because a lot of the caregivers who come here Friday go to Corte Madera on Wednesday. So we'll see how that goes, and see if sometimes the construction, you know, they may not actually close in August either. It might, it's like, so we're gonna kind of see,
Right.
but we'll try to support, you know, people as they need it and as best we can. So.
Unrelated, but maybe related. Is the Dropbox being used for a circulation match?
The locker? I would say it's hard to get stats on it because it's not in there, but it's used daily by a couple people, yeah.
Because that could help people in Corte Madera who are used to picking up on Sunday that Corte Madera is open and we're closed. That might be something we could tell Corte Madera to tell their patron that if they want to pick up when they were closed, they can use a locker.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
They can use their county card, right?
Yeah, any library Marine card will work here, so
That's
Sunday and Monday when they're open and we're closed, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, that might help Corte Madera patron to cope with the closure.
And just another closure, San Rafael's gonna close in September, probably, the main library, and then they'll be in a little storefront down on 4th Street, and then like the old beauty store by like Marin Joe's there, or San Rafael Joe's. So it'll be interesting if we get people from there also.
It also would be, if they're on 4th Street, it would be a little easier to, they're kind of tucked in, like they're on Mission, between Mission. So they might get more foot traffic. It'll be right across the street from the plaza where the high school.
Yeah. You have any other questions?
No.
It's nice to see these circulation statistics, and they seem sort of solid and consistent and building. It's cool.
Oh, that's good. We started with our staffing returning, we're able to do this kind of monthly, and I could include this as a monthly item. The big one next month will be kind of our year-end conclusion. And we've kind of kept the same formats from 14 or 15 forward, so we might revise the formats a little bit about what we're counting. Like the kids' books are all the kids' books, but it might be interesting, no picture books, easy reader.
Oh, yeah.
and some of
Yeah.
that, what are
Yeah.
kids reading? We can pull that out ourselves, but folks might, it's just more interesting to see what
Yeah.
people are, is it toddler books or nonfiction?
Mhm.
All right, moving on. This is the, business item. New library update, report back on subcommittee attending design team meeting on May 30th.
Arnell, do you want to start?
Let me gather my thoughts here. I'm gonna start with the format, which I was a little surprised by, as this was not what either of us were expecting, where just Jeff and I got the presentation.
Oh, that's
they-
true, that's true.
So
I was surprised
the-
it's just us.
Which made it that the team, the architect team, the design team just presented it, and it was mostly Jeff and I asking questions, which I'm sure there was a good reason for. The thing that I was sorry about that format was that not hearing the feedback and questions of the other groups, we couldn't really think outside our box. We were
Other
there,
groups being the foundation.
the other groups who were presented to. I believe that the two foundation came right after us.
Okay, so they did on separate.
That's right.
I see.
And so we had questions, but all the questions we had were trustees questions. We did not really hear foundation questions. We could not really hear friend of the library questions. And maybe their question will have informed us better on other questions.
Sure.
So it was probably expediency for scheduling, but it was a presentation. We were just put in front of it, and we had to think fast in terms of what we wanted to do.
The positive was we could dwell on the things we were interested in and didn't have to worry about somebody else.
Right.
But you're right, we didn't hear what other constituencies' concerns were, but maybe you could fill us in on those, because you were at all of them, I assume.
Yeah.
I can't believe that, I mean, it must have been hard for them, for the design team and the architects to go through this so many times with each set of people.
But when I
too.
thought about it later, was that from a trustee point of view, is that having heard the questions and concerns or feedback of the others would have informed us
Yeah.
going forward of what these groups, which we rarely hear and we rarely see. We know what they're doing. We don't.
Yeah.
It could have told us, oh, I see, the segment of the population is really interested in this unknown part.
Might have been some nice.
It might have been giving us a little more background going forward but the main question we had about the building was, functionality. The design is beautiful today. It will, of course, the design and look is very in the eye of the beholder. But I thought that in terms of functionality, that we have a little bit of everything. It's not a very big building, but it is expandable. It is expandable immediately by having a lot of a door that open to the outside, so that we can expand out several rooms outside, several rooms communicate. And I was very pleased to see that the team and the children were given specific spaces, while the other spaces seem to be more fluid. So it seems to be a place where people can meet, learn, exchange, that it meets the criteria that we have of just, and even the unknown can be housed in there. So I thought it was a good presentation, and I thought that the architect was very attentive to questions. And and taking them in. They were really focused on how to present that to the public, which is important. And I could really feel that they were paying attention to our reactions and our questions in preparation for meeting the public as well.
Yeah.
Jeff, anything else?
There were no huge surprises from what we'd seen a couple months ago in that long 300-page thing and those key 20 pages in there.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see it more visually presented by this group and described by the people who, I mean, it's fun to see things
So
through
3D
architect's
model.
eyes. Yeah, essentially. I mean, you could
Yeah.
tell the volume of the room, of the area, which was really pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
You got a better sense of the way the building is gonna be situated there. And that's gonna be all real positive, I think, with everybody in the community. The thing that we kind of knew that was reinforced with me is that it is small, but that's the money we're dealing with, you know, it's $10 million versus, you know, 30 or $40 million. But the real positive about it, and the first question that Armel had that she and I both thought it was about expansion, and they said, yes, there's possibilities for expansion there, because I think these are architects.
Expansion going.
No, expansion really using the footprint of the property, not necessarily, not going up.
Behind it.
You don't have to go up. You could, it would essentially go to the south, I think, off of that, yeah.
It's essentially a building that is built from the inside out. So
So-
instead of being completely contained with solid walls, it is, there's a core, there's clearly the core being the district, the circulation desk. And from there, it just radiates. So you can always add a wing and you will not lose the perspective of going one way, going the other way, going out.
Yeah.
There are those at least 2 or 3 sliding doors, large
Big
sliding
ones.
doors. So they're essentially glass walls that could be removed and another room would be built behind those walls. So there is an understanding by the architect that we have to be able to use the whole space, the whole lot we have, and even if it's not completely enclosed in walls, we can use it, we can see through it, we can use it visually, we can get the air. It seems to be a building that takes the lot in consideration, and not only is limited by the budget we have,
Yeah.
but it still gives you the use or the enjoyment of the whole spot. And I thought it was very clever, very cleverly and thoughtfully put together. High ceilings, clerestory windows for light.
It sure seemed like they paid attention to you guys too. Library staff was familiar with that, but this is a group that's designed libraries before too, so they understand all those things, I think. And you could tell the emphasis that we have always talked about with public programs that are involved there. They're different they're different spaces where you could do that public program with the 130 people that would show up for Dewey Livingston's Hall.
What is the total capacity on the?
I think, as I recall, I mean, maybe you'll know, like, I mean, one room was 100, I think. Wasn't it, or 75 to 100?
Yeah,
If you open the doors, yeah.
Yeah, the library itself, and some of this is all grant driven in terms of schedule and that, but the library itself is 6,685 square feet. And that's because that's our existing library's footprint. If you take, you know, both
All those
floors,
levels, yeah.
the bathroom, you know, the tech room, the lobby down there, that's the same square footage. And so that was what the architects had to work with in terms of the program. And so there's a quiet room that's like 400 square feet, and then the children's rooms I bet like 1,000 square feet. And I think the teen room's 400. I'm off on some of these rooms. And then the city provided additional funding of about $4 million for 2,100 or 2,200 square feet of community space. So the community rooms and the 2 meeting rooms are city funded and they're not technically,
That's additional to the 6,000.
yeah. So at the end of the day, it's probably more closer to 9,000 square feet.
Right.
And just for reference, Corte Madera Library is 9,100 square feet.
Okay.
Fairfax is also, so it's about that, it's just configured differently in, the use spaces and they
So
maximize.
the 2,000 of it is carved out for city specific usage, not the library.
The library would be able to use it, so there'll be like a meeting room, a medium-sized meeting room with a movable wall that would bleed into children, so that could be used. But the city would have the primary use of the meeting room, but the library would be able to program it, use all 3 of these rooms
Right.
as a shared space, kind of like we could share this
So is
space.
this like a part of the city rec, Parks and Rec department, or is it a?
More just the regular city budget, not rec
Okay.
technically. Although I'd foresee rec collaborating as we,
Yeah.
move forward, but
Sure.
not financially or formally within the process.
I got the impression from the architects, though, that this truly was, library communal common space that, it wasn't like gonna be City Hall was gonna be in there, or that, this area, the Board of Supervisor, the, City Council would be in there at all. There may be public meetings there, but it really would be generated through library programming in those different areas.
Yeah, so that's,
But you're right,
I'm-
we'll see, I think, but
That's something.
that's another battle at some
I'm
point.
curious
maybe.
if you had, like, the conversations as I started like asking around, saying, hey, what questions do you have, or what are the things you'd like to know? The number one sort of topic has been around, could we have a coffee shop that's
Yeah.
operating?
Yeah.
And I'm curious, is that
Yeah, that's a conversation that was with the
That
building,
means-
the
that
earlier
means catering.
iteration of things too.
did you know where
Yeah,
that went?
swimming pool.
I would say the cities have said no to that.
Okay,
They are in the meeting room though, will be, and I would say other libraries who've tried it, they haven't been financially feasible. So, even like I know at the Civic Center, they have to subsidize the cafeteria. So I think as a business in San Francisco, Maine opened with one, you might remember.
Mhm.
And it had to close it because it's just not,
no, if this was fully operated by, like, the Equator just kind of opened its own little location there.
It would have to be rezoned into commercial.
and
I-
it would also, and then there's environmental permits that get triggered. It gets a little more complicated, so I think
Through-
It- it-
County has to go in, or just,
And I think with some libraries, people bring their own coffee, so
Right.
I think there will be opportunities though, because the meeting room and within the city will have a small kitchenette that can cater events.
Yeah.
So I think, there would maybe be opportunities for maybe like a food truck or
Yeah.
a coffee cart to come or something that's non-permanent. The Friends were somewhat interested in that, so they kind of discussed it and brought it up. City doesn't really want to do it, but I think there might be as we get into the process ways to do something.
Were there other things that other constituent groups brought up, Damon, that seemed specific to them?
Yeah, and just to kind of also remind, we had to do a subcommittee here, and not everyone could come because of the Brown Act, so that was an issue. And then the 5 groups were the Commons Foundation, the Friends of the Library, the board, the Larkspur Library Foundation, and then the Rose Lane Neighborhood Association. And the idea, I think, with that was your group was by far the smallest. The Friends, I think, had 8 or 9 people there.
Good.
And so, and then the foundation had 4, 5, and Rose Lane had quite a few people. So I think to give room to speak and talk and try to increase each group's needs was part of the logic. I think the Commons Foundation, some smaller things, like they wanted a gate for the library desk, where that is, which is kind of an interesting.
Interesting.
The Friends were pretty like it's all good and we're supportive.
Yep.
So they didn't really have too
Good.
much. Sorry, comment on, and I think the Larkspur Library Foundation and some friends are interested in what is in the existing library downstairs that could be brought over to Echo. They have interest in bringing the stained glass over.
Continuity.
And some sort of, and so we're also thinking with that quiet room, you know, that quiet space. We probably wouldn't bring stuff over, but it would echo more. You might have back chairs, traditional bookcases that might have a little more of a traditional feel. And there'll be an archive room in the library also. That's a little storage, so maybe there's elements that could be incorporated within the archive room. There, but kind of to be seen. But that was, I think, the library foundation wanted to make sure the locker they brought was incorporated.
Yeah.
And so we did create kind of a space at the entrance, an overhang. I think those was, and then Rose Lane had more detailed questions about, you know, the fence and the positioning. And that sort of thing. But I think overall, the meeting went well. They had a pretty detailed comments. We meet every Thursday at 3 with the design team, and last week we went over all the comments from each of the groups. And so I think they really did listen to the feedback. We did have, I guess the friends, I would say the one thing they did want to make sure they wanted a visually exciting and bright children's room. I think that was their big, which I think is generally the plan, you know, to go with it. And we don't have the specific colors and details, but I think that was, I would say their big issue.
Yeah, one of the concerns I had, which I expressed, which they made a note of, I think, was that, you know, when they go to present this to a larger group of the public, is to make sure they have some visuals as to what it looks like from Doherty Drive. Because that's one thing that was the stumbling block in the earlier iteration of when, you know, years ago. But this will look great from that side, and I think they know it. They just didn't have it in our presentation because they're more concerned about other things.
And I think they're still hoping to take these refinements and go to the planning commission in July. Right now, they today they met with some officials from the planning department to go over some details. They're also working kind of with the fire department to make sure, like the parking lots aligned right and getting all those types of signs offs. So they're kind of going through that detail work, and then I think they would build upon that presentation that you saw for the planning commission, where everyone would be invited. And then that would hopefully get approval there. And I think we're seeing with having to open with the grant by March of 26 as the last date by some of these meetings. It's just, here's the meeting, gotta keep rolling. So
I had thought the same, that there might be that same concern as how can you bring over that, whatever musty smell might be in the old building to the new one. And I remember being in a brand new library in Birmingham, England, which is absolutely beautiful. And what they did on their top floors, they reconstructed, I think, an 1890s room in their previous library that had this entire Shakespeare collection, and all the walls were the same. They had undone it and rebuilt it on the top floor of this modern building, and it was pretty cool to see. I gotta admit, but you just think, wow, that was crazy.
If we can get that kind of you know, specific detail, then I'd say it's definitely worth the trust.
Yeah.
Pursue that angle.
Otherwise, maybe bring over some sort of remnant. But
I guess the other remnant, there was a couple, we might have a display case of similar size. That was the foundation that we have downstairs for display. And I also mentioned the display, the Commons also wanted to make sure we had a nice donor area too.
Yeah.
So that was a couple of
yeah,
which we're in the works, but it was good to kind of, you know, talk about it.
Great.
Yeah.
Onward, huh?
Yeah.
It's great. Thank you for attending.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah,
And I'll forward any, like if they have final anything that's released publicly, we'll send you immediately.
that'd be great. Thank you. So next up, communication update.
Okay.
Congratulations on the newsletter launch.
Thank you.
And then the qualitative and quantitative analysis and discussion.
Okay, so we finally got the MailChimp to launch and I thought before I go in here, at the last time I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of goals, which I think that why we're doing some of these communications. So I think I have really kind of three that I kind of have, and I think the first one is actually to provide awareness of the library to people who don't use it. I think there's just a lot of people who like the library who don't use it. And we just want them to know we're still here, even if you don't, I think that's a big thing. And I think that's what the email newsletter did to some of our cord holders. And also our social media website to a lesser degree, community events. But I think the second thing I'd like to do is for people who use us to be aware of our specific programs and resources. So for instance, this week we had a couple of people coming in signing up for summer reading, and we did hear, I saw on the email. So that was at least something, we know someone saw it, they got excited. We heard that at the Dewey presentation as well. And what we might do there is, start to segment people a little bit and target them. If they're really high interest, trying to target them with specific.
So the second one's also an awareness, but just specific to programs.
To programs and resources,
Right.
with the idea that we would ideally start to increase numbers.
Right.
Some of that increased numbers, I think, is outside of our control, but it would be to make sure people are coming to our programs.
Yeah.
And using our resources, and that would be more of a quantitative type of thing. And then three, I think it's to develop an understanding of what the public wants and needs and doesn't want. And so with this, we'll help plan for the new library and programs. So I feel like what we're doing now with our programs, sometimes a little experimental.
Mhm.
And so we'll get an idea of what's popular and what's not. So like with the MailChimp, we were able to see where people click on different programs, which was very insightful. And so we had a lot of people click on the video game day. And then we had a lot of people click on the slime program.
Mhm.
So people, that tells us a little bit versus book clubs, not that we shouldn't program, in a certain way, but those were pretty high. And then actually the second highest was book lists, which surprised me. We had our, hot May fiction list. That was the second biggest click, which I was surprised, so I think we might be expanding, how many book lists we put in there. And then it also, I think, again, like, will tell us what types of programming and kind of fun we would do versus programs that aren't done. And once we have kind of a better idea that we can kind of refine that a little bit more. I think also with that goal, I think at some point during this year, I do want to do, it probably won't be 100% scientific, but more of an informal survey where people could kind of put general comments about the library. And then do a newsletter and try to get a few people in terms of what type of programs would you come to? How's our collection doing? Maybe something about hours and services around there. And so that would be kind of a two-way conversation with the survey to try to figure it out. And then we're also kind of hearing with just general emails and patron feedback. I think it's like this. I don't think we're ready at a phase to try to understand yet what our non-users are using. Maybe the survey might help us a little bit, and we can kind of bring them in with different programs. But we're still, a pretty small library with only a few people. So that's kind of why I think understanding what kind of our general users are kind of using, and then what's popular in the county, versus trying to do a large initiative of people who don't use the library.
And then we can't survey.
And then how they do it. But this, I think, will give us ideas about once we're larger in a better setting, especially I think with maybe middle, upper elementary kids in particular, maybe like parent groups, what kind of services they'll be wanting when the space can provide it more.
Did you see any correlation between the time that the newsletter was sent and now of people coming in for a library card, which would be indicative of people who do not use the library but discovered something through the newsletter that made them aware that it was basically.
No, I didn't see any library cards, but
Nobody came to.
no, I mean, there were, I'd have to look up the number of library cards issued. But, and we do kind of peek at that and talked about it, but it was, 3 or 4, what it kind of normally was. There wasn't that. We did send the list to all our card holders and everyone who was in our book sizzle list, which was 7,000 people. The city manager's newsletter goes out to 4,000 people.
Right.
So we're actually sending it to more people, but we did talk maybe emerging lists, that would maybe be a list where we could merge. We don't want to get a lot of unsubscribes, but we could maybe, the city manager's list may be a good list for us to work with. Because it would attract, citizens who don't have library cards. Probably everyone we sent this to had a library card, because we're kind of talking, hopefully they forwarded it to a friend or, something like that, but in reality, probably I would, and again, I don't have demographics, because we don't have like a dashboard that does this like some libraries do. But probably I would guess like of those card holders, 20 to 30% are users, and 30 to 70% are real once a year type users, and then 70 to 100 probably never come in. But we do have their email and their contacting. So with that, like that, never use us, but you have a library card, there is a chance you might come in.
Right.
And we're only also sending to adults. I should also say, none of these are going to children, but anyone under 18.
So we don't really know how this list of 6,000 overlap with the 4,000 from the city manager.
Not at this time, no. Yeah.
But it could be just that there's such a little difference between the two, so it's not really
Worth doing, yeah. Once we have the first one, I think we're gonna try doing it monthly to start. Seems like a good, for how much events we have, because we also don't, we had some unsubscribes. We had, I think, 163 unsubscribes, and then one person emailed us to unsubscribe, which actually isn't too bad for a first newsletter, I didn't think. But we also know we don't want to spam people's email boxes if they don't do it. So what we did, like at the library, when I did it at the county, when we did this, when you have like the people who open it, you create a special subset group of those people and maybe email them a little bit more frequently, so they're they want that information versus someone who, versus someone who's like, oh my gosh, we sent it on Friday afternoon, and that seemed like a good time. It's when we sent the book sizzle, and it's like a light, libraries tend to be light, happy news that you want to generate good weekend. I think we'll do that again. I think we like the lunchtime open. That's kind of 11 to 1 range is what we're doing. But I don't know, does anyone here use, I know you probably use MailChimp, or anyone familiar with MailChimp, but
I'm familiar with it. We're not using it right now, my company.
You're not, okay, but they do give you pretty good analytics and data, and there's a nice dashboard of, you could, do users and that sort of thing. So it's a, where we didn't have anything before book sizzle, so it's a good.
When you mentioned emailing more often to people who open it, it might be just emailing whenever there is something really new, because any interest always wane after a certain time because people get used to it. So I'm not certain that more frequent is really the key, but more compelling is definitely important. And if sometimes when people wait for it, they are a little more keen to open it because they don't wanna miss it. So we should, I don't know, FOMO is a big drive for people.
I'm not sure if this is possible, but my quick reaction to the communication so far and kind of the goals that you just stated, I think is whether, it's possible to get more granular in terms of like segmenting and having something that's specific to the segments that we're trying to, or the demographic that we're trying to go after, because it's really difficult to have a newsletter that resonates for like a young family to, like just like any broader sort of subset. They're just interested in potentially different things, teenagers are going to care about something very different. And so the question I have is just like, is it possible to think about, how we may have specific communication strategy that goes to these different population groups within the city, and then do we have like a sequence, like, hey, we're actually more interested in, increasing awareness within this group for now, this is where we think we're underserved, or is it, we could do stuff in parallel. And then this sort of like within, if Jonathan was here, I'm sure he would be able to recall his comment around, I think he had sort of like the engagement reach, and then he had like an element of engagement, the sort of like experience component. And I wonder if there's something there to also explore, because, it's one thing for us to attract people to come in and take advantage of, the library services, and it's another thing to get them to continue to participate and continue to use those things. And, of course, and I say all of this, the library has its own like inherent constraints right now in terms of size and staff, and, it's like, so we have certain ambitions in terms of like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we could reach everybody and do all these things that makes it to everyone. So kind of like also just understanding our own limits, and then within those limits, where do we really want to focus our time and energy, is another aspect that I think would be interesting to explore.
And it could just on the segmentation, I guess that also might be one of our limits, but something we could, build upon. Again, I go back to my county experience. We had a dashboard that segmented for us, and it was based on how we had to subscribe to it. And basically, if you're checking out, it was anonymous, data wise. But if you're checking out children's books, you got, even if you were adult, categorized in one area. If you use DVDs, you got categorized. If you were a really heavy user, in another. We had 10 segments, and then each branch you could segment each branch. And then so what we would do is send out like a children's focused, and Mill Valley does like a once a month children's. I think there is something we could kind of do in MailChimp, because you can segment people like where they're opening, but it's a little hard to correlate their usage in terms of what they're checking out, if they're using computers, if they're using ebooks, if they're using whatever within MailChimp, the segment. But we're smaller, and there are, probably things we can learn in there. But I do think the segmenting is kind of good to think about. And I think also to your point about engagement experience, we've never really, kind of with summer reading a little bit targeting children's, but it's for everyone. I don't think we've ever targeted anyone, and that's, I think, something to think about. Again, like we went to the summer reading, or Teresa went to the schools and, did that. Obviously, we're targeting children there, but that was almost more not thought out. I mean, you're kind of doing it this time of year, and probably like the beginning of the year, we'll go back to schools and say, here we are, and try to get a drive. But there are probably ways we could really say, this is the month or season we want to target seniors, or we want to target parents, or target whatever group it is. And then also, I think probably our biggest limitation, I mentioned this before, is, our per capita funding is $57 per person, where in the county, it's about 132. Belvedere, Tiburon, and Mill Valley are like 220 per person. So financially and staff wise, we're by far lower. I mean, we have more and things like that, but we do have a lot less money and people.
Right.
Not that limits what we can do, but that kind of it impacts, some of the things you might be dreaming about beyond the facility.
Yeah.
But
I think that even calls further and attention to focus, right?
Exactly, to knowing exactly how to spend it, how to use it, and to rotate it. Just your suggestion of having focusing children, just having progression, just allows us to be, instead of just being, like you said before, everything for everybody, to just be everything we can for that group this month, and everything we can for that group this other month. And I do think, going back to the newsletter, I think that it's very important to maintain people's interest in opening it. It's very important for it to have a different focus each time. It has to have a sense of surprise of what are they going to talk about this time, and if each newsletter covers every area, then it's very repetitive, and people will stop opening it because it's predictable. And keeping it interesting by having, maybe it's, I don't know how to do it, or having different focus on either groups, demographic groups, or maybe even areas. You were just saying that the program on the marsh was very interesting, and just having, our Larkspur is varied. There's a downtown, there's a Greenway area, there is the area on the other side of the freeway. Each of them has different geographical features that could be maybe put in a program or in a newsletter, so that every time people open it, they just don't know what it's going to be. It's not going to be a calendar, but more of pride.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And that might get into our resource a little bit, in time and investment,
Yes.
on how to do it, because I really do like that, but I know, like this, I mean, just on a Pride Club, we have 2 people on vacation for a couple of weeks, and that's going to impact the newsletter, because everyone's going to be on.
It doesn't have to be big, because
But-
the newsletter needs to be, as the main purpose of it is to let people know what's happening at the library. So of course it will be a calendar and a list of a menu. But if each time there is a little focus or a different presentation, or that might help people just have that little nugget of excitement, of different, it might even be just what is in the display case.
Yeah, that's a good,
Because that is pretty much self-propelled. People come and they approach the library to have whatever they're doing displayed, and each time it's different, and it's not something that I think the most difficulty you have is to find enough months for people to.
yeah.
It's calendaring it. So
The other thing we've talked about, this a little more time with, when the friends have done this, and Thomas is doing profiles of people who are in the library community, like might be a foundation member or a friend member or staff member or board member, where we put their picture in there and do a little bio, and just have them know whoever that individual is and by their, because when the Friends did their newsletter, they featured one of our just teen workers who's there 5 hours. And that was probably one of the more talked about, at least from what I heard from it. So I think there are things that people like, they kind of can see the programs, but if they do have something, especially if they feel connected to it, or like maybe if we are doing a focus in on somehow the Bon Air neighborhood, I don't know, different neighborhoods or something along those lines. I'd have to think that out a little bit more what that would be, but something like that, I think where people would maybe unexpected
Correct.
from us.
Correct.
Because they probably know we're gonna do summer reading, they know we're gonna do book club, they know we have book lists.
Yes, so something that is just surprise this month, we didn't tell you about, something that's in the case, so one particular building in Larkspur that is being featured, something, the Larkspur Community Foundation is gonna have the Rose Bowl in September. Maybe something about the history of a picture of the Rose Bowl of Escal would be something that would just link the two and just give them a little nugget. Many people have moved here and have no knowledge of Escal and what went there and how it was. So just some and something that would outline our community. Why is it that we have how many different people we have? The Scar was a winery before Napa, before Snow. Just that. Just examples. Just trying to make that newsletter surprising and people would look forward to it. What are we gonna learn this time? Besides knowing that story time is happening as usual. It was good. It was good to see it like inbox.
Okay, unless there are any further,
Yeah, the only other idea I kind of just to throw out here, and probably maybe a fall thing, but I don't know if there would be like a focus group we could ever pull together, or maybe someone we get, because I would love to talk to maybe like parents or some kind of group like that, like downstairs, where you maybe 10 or 15 in a facilitated conversation, I think. Is another idea I wanted to throw out there that I think would work well in Larkspur to get well, because I think there would be you could get a nice representative group within here somehow. So that's another idea I've kind of wanted to understand.
Yeah.
Somehow, and probably have support groups that help find those key people. It also could maybe not community leaders like the city council, but people on the ground really living day to day.
Yeah, users.
Yeah.
absolutely. That sounds great.
That's
The more feedback we get, the better we'll be feeding the intuition with kind of the things that we need to know on what to prioritize. All right, the last item on the business item is the September 9 Library Board and Support Group meeting.
So I think on our last meeting, we talked about inviting the 3 groups to come here to present.
Yeah.
I threw that out to the 3 groups as I met with them, kind of via email to the Friends, to the Commons. And it seemed like there was interest there to come. Dan said Jay would come. Well, it's too much this year. The Library Foundation didn't respond or comment. So I don't know. I know they're meeting September 11th, that Wednesday, and Larry's on vacation now. He did attend there. He did attend the design meetings, and so that's kind of the update of my communications with those groups. And then I think also, I believe Armel had a suggestion to maybe develop a formal invitation to write to those groups, to invite them to this meeting on that Monday to talk about what they're doing, the goals, and how the library board interrelates. And we did also talk, although it's a little less firm, with social gatherings of some sort in July, but that's still kind of to be determined. Ann's away in most of June, I think.
Did we say that, we mentioned the Marinet? And I think we vaguely mentioned last, meeting that if we had the Marinet presentation when the three, the foundation and the commons and the friends are here, then it will help everyone who has a stake in the library just have a reset on what Marinet does for us and how it impacts us. And we would all be understanding the, especially now that the Marinet is being impacted by the state funding challenges. You think it
Yeah.
would be too much?
Yeah,
for
no,
one
I do
meeting?
have it on the future agenda items for 8, and then I guess we could also, talk about. It would be fine with me to do both, but then you could also have the group meeting and then the Marinet or the Marinet first. And then do the group meeting. I could see it both ways.
It's so hard to get everybody to come, that to have the Marinet at a different time, I am quite certain that we wouldn't have all the groups there, and it's such an important part of our budget, that it would be really, efficient to have that presentation when everybody's here and everybody starts September on the same, page.
I think with Marinet, and that's as we get into the data, you'll notice 40% of our circulation's ebooks. We hardly spend any money on ebooks. We're pretty much relying on the county and other jurisdictions to supplement that. And our book budget isn't big enough to support ebooks. So I just wanted to throw, that would be a good, when you see our usage, people here want e-materials, but we only spend $1,500 a year on ebooks. And we were relying on a state grant that you usually got every year that's gonna probably go away. So that's kind of a non-user thing, but I forgot to highlight that within Marinet. That's a big chunk of our usage being ebooks. It's 40% of our users. They don't come here and they want ebooks. So I think it would be good, and that might be something for the groups to
Yeah.
hear.
But it's in-
That 40% is in this, it's in this is separate, right, in this ebook circulation, or is that included in the total cert number?
Yeah, I'm kind of generalizing with the 40%, but that 4,884, that's how many ebooks were checked out by Larkspur patrons.
Right.
6,476 physical books were checked out.
Got it.
And those 4,884 are all through Marinet,
I see.
all through Marinet.
So this is what, this is.
That would be like something I would highlight. That would be good for all the groups,
No.
to hear, because I think that's something maybe people don't realize how high that is.
Right.
And that would be an illustration of what we get for our, participation into the Marinet, because we get those ebooks.
Right.
And Marinet is an important part of our budget, but what do we get for it? And if everybody knows how much we put in and what we get in return, then we all know what it costs to run this, this library. And Marinet does way more than giving us, ebooks. So, I think it would be, informative
Yeah.
for everyone who is interested in running the library. Support. But I'm not sure if it would be too long of a meeting, because if we have each,
I mean,
We'd have to-
we could also plan to have dinner catered and. Venmo. No, I mean, I
Yeah.
could like, kids could Venmo me.
well, I don't know how long a Marinet presentation
I-
would run. It
I
would be
could probably do
15
it
minutes, 20?
15 to, I could do it in 15.
Right.
I could do it in 30, but 15 would,
We can figure out
15
the
plus
logistics,
questions.
yeah.
Well,
15,
just
15 would be a
for
good
scheduling.
target, because you could go pretty deep in
Yeah.
the details that
Yeah.
might not be
Right.
full interest, but I think at 15, it would hit the high points, the
Right.
history.
Yeah.
And also give like a little context of where Larkspur is in the library, because we were the last to join in 2001, for instance, and the other libraries joined in 94, like this library had resistance to moving away from the card catalog to computers. And I think a little bit of that still here in some ways of liking the traditional. And so some of that historical context I provide a little bit, but I could do it pretty quickly. I could
Okay.
get 15 with, and maybe 20 with questions.
Yeah, I think we should really just try to have it all on the same day, once we get those groups to come, just have as
And-
much information exchanged and make the most of it.
And we may not have as large a communication update at that point, or something. There might be a few things like that, but
Are we okay to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, status report, from our friends.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, you can always count on Friends of the Library to bring you gifts when we come.
oh,
And,
Oh my
these were
goodness.
supposed to be ready for the Bon Air and they were not done in time.
Oh,
But instead, this is just a little
Wow.
tchotchke handout
That's
thing that
amazing.
we've got. Stress
you.
balls that, will be
Oh.
handouts. I think if we have something for the, wine stroll, we'll have a bin of these there that people
Great.
can pick up, but I find during Zoom meetings
Oh,
or
yeah.
when I'm stuck in
Yeah.
traffic, it's a nice size, it's got a
This
good
is-
feel to
It is a
it.
good
Great.
size.
This is
Yes.
great,
Yeah.
just in time for the
Like the-
election.
Exactly. And then, we also have the display downstairs in the library, and so I took a picture of it, wanted you all to
Nice.
see. And we have
Great.
kind of a bowl of some of our little tchotchkes there as well.
Nice.
A Lord of the Rings Lego set that we
Oh
hope
my
is
goodness.
eye-catching.
Wow.
Our bags
bag.
there, more,
Yep.
exactly.
Very nice.
Wow.
We've got a barcode that you can scan, or a QR
A
code
QR code,
to
great.
donate, a little bit about who we are, our board, the summer reading program and everyone who donated, and then about our laundromat library.
This is terrific.
That is
Yeah,
really good.
yeah.
That is visual, that is easy, because people walk right by.
That's-
And if it's not eye-catching,
Amazing.
My daughter built it. She is
Wow.
a total Lord of the Rings nut. It took her a
How
full
old is
year. She's 30. It was her
Okay.
30th birthday
That's a
present
good
and it's
thing.
Wow.
6,000 pieces. It's Rivendell. If
Yes,
you're not an LOTR
that's-
band.
That's,
That's
But the
pretty
fellowship is all the little Lego pieces are all gathered here. And Frodo is right there in the front holding the
Nice.
gold ring.
this
so.
is,
And then we've got the book there, Fellowship of the Ring as
Great.
well.
there you go. See,
that is,
we didn't even
Yeah.
talk about the
Yeah.
young adult demographic.
that
here.
needs to go in the
That's
next
so
newsletter.
good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
That is the next
That's so
newsletter.
good.
Yeah.
Top-
Please pass our compliments to your daughter.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
sure. And then, we did have a number of donors for the summer reading program. And so we've included them all in our newsletter that just went out. We had their logos and links to their businesses featured in there. They're, also on our website as well as, on display. And so we also wanted to print up something that we would take out to
Great.
each of the businesses,
Nice.
thank them personally, and then they could post this in the windows, showing that they were a proud supporter of the summer
That's
reading
good.
program. It was actually, Jordan Jaffe's daughter who designed this. I think
Oh.
she's like 8 or 9, and it was a school project for her to create this in PowerPoint. So we're trying to reach all of them.
That's cool.
Design, brilliant, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
nice.
so
Very
that'll
good.
go up.
communication report. And I think that having those in the windows will really, it will have two impact. It will let people know about the reading program. It will also let people know about library friends.
Yes,
That is
that's our goal.
excellent.
Good.
And so we do have our logo on here, but the QR code here goes to the summer reading
Great.
website of the
Yeah.
library, if anybody wanted to scan that. And we've all made a commitment among ourselves that we're gonna try to patronize all those businesses this
Yes.
summer.
Yeah.
And every time we go in, we're gonna thank them
Yes.
for what they have donated to
Good
the
idea.
library.
Donut alley, here I come.
Yeah,
So this goes on the window of the businesses
Of the
that they
business.
put it up.
correct. So
Got
we
it.
were gonna go by and drop these off
Yes.
with each of them, and if they choose to post it, we'd love it.
Right.
We'll see.
Right, okay.
So we've got that.
Very
And then, just as, Damon provided you with stats from the library newsletter, we use MailChimp, and so we tried to come up with similar stats. And, we've got 5,000 people who, receive the newsletter approximately. And we had a 47% open rate, so very similar to what you had. And, we only had 53 unsubscribed, which I thought was good. And our most popular link was the summer reading program, so that was good. The second most popular link was Boy Chick Bagels. So we wanted to make sure we went by and told them that that was the
Wow.
case. And because I think a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of Boy Chick and the Shack and some of those down there. And the third most popular link was the calendar for the library. And there was one click on the donate button, but they didn't donate, so they're at least checking it out. So I can start providing those to you prior to the next meeting, so you'll be able to see similar stats for us to what the library has. And we're featured, as far as a unique thing goes, we had a patron pass away with the library, Leon Belli, and we got caught by surprise when they put in his obituary to please donate to Friends of the Library. And so over a period of about 6 weeks, we had, I think it was 7 family members donated almost $1,000 to Friends of the Library. So we did a little memorial to him in our newsletter. I did see that. Suggesting to people what a good idea that was. And then Teresa wrote a little paragraph about Leon as well, saying what a great guy he was, and he was always a joy to serve as a patron. So I hope there'll be other ways that we can find a way to feature a patron or a neighborhood or something. And ours came out 1 week after the library one did. So our thought was, theirs comes out, ours will reinforce the following week, but we're not trying to, our calendar, theirs is a little more featured at the front, ours is a little more down at the bottom. So if you get down there, it'll just reinforce.
I was trying to have a good timing, and I did see the little article about Leon, and I thought it was a very good idea, because this is what we are. It's more about, it's about program, it's about people. I mean, at the bottom, we are just here for our neighbors, and that was a good, it was a very good reminder of what a small and should be tight community we are.
Yeah.
Good job, Diane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
They got these great read squeezies that are really like that, but it says read for summer reading prize.
Oh,
And those have been just a hit for our summer reading program.
Oh,
to
nice.
sign up,
Here.
cause had like 150 people sign up and they all just love it. We have a basket out front
Oh, excellent.
and so.
That's great. That's great.
And then we also found some little
Yeah.
squeezy books that have like silly things on
You
it
know,
right
it-
here too.
Swag is
There's
so
something about it.
key, you know, and it like doesn't cost that much, and it's just everybody loves it,
Mhm.
you know,
Usually about
gets the
75
brand
cents to
out.
$1.
Yeah,
And I don't think there's anything else at that price point that could.
What's that?
oh yeah, no, that's a good.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
The read one is so boldly colored.
Well, and it's good because like we call it a squeezy thing for the little kids, but the adults like it too. Where you say
Sure.
it's a stress, but we don't want to tell kids stress.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Exercise.
Yeah.
It helps you to strengthen, or if you break an arm, or this
Yeah.
is exactly what
This
you
is very
should be
neat.
doing,
Great.
prevent breaking an arm.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Dan. This was
Yeah.
brilliant. As we love having you here, and we
Oh, thank you.
appreciate the updates. Thank you.
Wonderfully encouraging.
Do you have more business to take care of? I can head out or?
You're welcome to leave now. We're
Yeah.
just gonna talk about future agenda items, and we're gonna wrap up.
Okay, all right, I think I will.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, thank you, Diane.
Thank
you, Diane.
Sure.
See ya.
How strict, is the agenda for future, in case they're time sensitive? Do we wanna cut and allow allow the friends and foundations to give their update when they're here. That's.
I think I think you could make some sort of motion to reprioritize the agenda and say, can we move up number 8 during the business
Okay.
or whatever
Okay.
that
Great.
might feel then.
We'll do that next time if I feel like we're pressed for time.
Okay, I think
Okay.
you might need a second.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I would never,
yeah,
I would never
this
go
was a-
solo on
as-
those. Okay.
Yeah.
As a formality.
Um,
but-
That sounds good.
What I think that we can even ask Diane ahead or any other.
Yep.
Ahead of the meeting if they have,
Yeah, I mean.
preferred
yeah,
times,
that's
and
good.
we can, yeah, as long as it is
Yeah.
in the agenda.
Yeah.
That they are gonna be number 1, it's okay to move them at any number. It's just that.
Yeah, this is just a working template,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah,
so.
we could always
yeah.
modify it to accommodate, although, you know, especially if we're doing our, you know, library update, in twice a year, that means they don't have to sit through, you know, the entire length of every meeting, because they're gonna get the readout, in those meetings. Okay. Future agenda items, I have some thoughts on this. I would love to continue for the benefit of getting Andy and Jonathan's feedback on your thoughts on the quantitative, qualitative goals for comms. I think that would be great to
Yep.
be able to continue that if you're all
Yeah, we should.
amenable to that.
Yeah.
My second thought, you know, I've been thinking about this, I'm about to, do a personal family, personal experiment with the several, 11-year-old girls who are, we're gonna set up this book club and we kind of experiment a certain format of running. I coach a lot of sports like Andy does. And, you know, I'm curious if I can even get these kids like half as engaged and motivated, sort of time spent with reading as, you know, we are with sports, you know. But I, you know, as I, obviously I'll come back at the end of summer and I'll report back my learnings and findings, you know.
We'll put you on the agenda.
You know, I'm happy to do that, but the thing that I was just thinking about is just, you know, as we think about this kind of element of focusing, the fact that we have about quarter of the budget, you know, of what our peer districts cities have. Is there some ways we wanna just think about like this sort of like a portfolio approach to the way that we prioritize or go forward with it, like initiative services that we plan to deploy? Meaning, you know, we could do a kind of continuation of these programs that are kind of like little bite size. And that's like one portfolio approach where everything is kind of like similar size and distributed throughout the year. You know, we could go with like almost like a bold initiative, like a something kind of like risky, and we don't know if it's gonna work, but like we have kind of greater ambitions and we want to try something new. And then we still want a portfolio of those steady things, but we trade like half the tiny bits for like a big thing that we do. I'm just thinking about that because I think we, in some ways, when we initially started off on writing the mission statement, part of the kind of underlying sentiment was like, look, it's, you know, 2024, you're like, I'm not sure if everyone knows half our circulations that are coming from, you know, reading. You said 40%, but I just rounded up. Is there some acknowledgement of like, look, 2024 is like a different world, and it's like, you know, there was like a little interim period where libraries were like internet cafes, you know. It's like now it's, you know, what is the current state of like way we really want to serve a community in a way that's like truly makes Larkspur a unique, awesome, you know, differentiate, like becomes a cornerstone of like what we are able to give. I just think we have this moment where this new you know, we're gonna have this, probably the most exciting thing in the city in years, right? Like, I mean, look, this new library is gonna be like such an attraction, such a beautiful part of the city and such a, exciting moment, and I just would love to have like an element of the library that's unique to us, that's kind of like our thing. And that it may fail, and it's fine if it fails, but it allows us to kind of experiment and have a way of testing the way in which we can kind of extend or graduate the library to like 2024 proper, you know? I just a thought, structuring this obviously is kind of a broad and very like abstract in some ways, but my thinking is like there's probably something here that can be explored that's much, but has more ambition. I just look at the support system we have and, you know, feel like this community went out and raised an insane amount of money to open this new library. I think about how quickly community comes together on like, you know, we have probably the sweetest little league, you know, I mean, thing, you know, just it's a really, really supportive group that kind of can come together and be a part of something kind of bold and exciting, and to your point of like focus groups and getting people involved and be a part of it. But I just think it'd be awesome for us from a last mile delivery of like what we give in the new library to do something that's new and exciting.
That would be the agenda item, right, would be maybe adding to our standard communication, having a thought of what makes us, let's think about what makes us special.
Yeah.
And we can just each time just gather or filter or distill from the report you gave of what particular program was significant, was well received, and makes us unique. And we don't have to zoom on one necessarily at next meeting or even within the next 6 months. But if at each meeting we think what happened this month that made us different, that was particularly relevant for Larkspur, then maybe at some point we will have this particular nugget, and when we have the new building, we can showcase it. Did I get it right?
Yeah. Go ahead,
sorry,
please.
Oh, one thing we might want to think about to toss out, and maybe some other libraries do it, is also thinking about, to kind of your point, what's outside the library that makes it interesting, and how can the library react to what is of interest?
Right.
As much as what we're doing to kind of go out, but what's out there
Right.
that we should be doing that's unique and special about Larkspur. Like the history chart was unique and special, and I think a lot of people who were there, that's why they came, because they could really feel it. So I think history is another way, but that's just an idea.
Was this history, particular history of Larkspur, or history broader, just like a topic of history?
It was the history of how the marshes, like where redwood is developed,
Right.
and all the islands and how they were filled in.
Right.
And so how did the land develop from the Mexican land grants to basically when redwood was hit, and why is Doherty Drive state picture?
Yeah.
You know, that way, so it was
Yeah.
really on the land usage of there, and why is, you know, certain subdivisions shaped the way they are and the train. So it was really there, but I think that's what made Larkspur special, or people remembered certain things, or they went, oh, my,
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
I think it's like,
So we can put
Yeah.
that as another,
Yeah.
another recurrent item of just reflecting what is special. You mentioned the Little League, that is also something
Yeah.
that is pretty unique here, and I mentioned Escal, which is a pretty a unique spot to have. So we can start thinking each time, what is it that people can rally around?
yeah,
That
Might-
we can showcase.
yeah.
Might be worth talking with the other larger groups too, when they meet
Right.
too, from their perspective.
And like I said, it could be just one, you know, like we have this one differentiating idea that we really wanna nourish and, you know, collect feedback, do some focus groups, like shape our intuition of what would be the one, two, three, but it could be just one, you know, but like, it's like the thing that we wanna really go out, make a bold statement with, and say we have to submit not only just this beautiful facility that's brand new, but we are taking kind of like a first step towards something new and exciting, that is specific to Larkspur, specific to this community. And we're super excited. And if it works, then we'll like add on, you know, and like funding can also be directly correlated with kind of like success, you know, like we can increase budget with success.
And
So,
and I like the idea of one or two and really doing something really well and
Yeah.
exciting versus
totally.
a lot of ideas that go
That's right.
nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
In that regard, we should probably, and we should definitely use this or consult or work with the Larkspur Community Foundation, whose only, mission is to sustain and to discover this type of specific Larkspur project, or Larkspur
Great.
specific project.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
and-
The more
and-
we collaborate, the better.
And they would have, maybe hints.
Yeah, there's that sense of place, but also that sense of community that we mentioned in our
Right.
mission statement.
I mean, just like there's, I mean, the example you're giving, you know, in this history bit, it's like, that was a topic, you know, that was interest-based, and it brought, you know, a group of people
Yeah.
that are interested in that specific domain to have an ability, you know, to consume, and you know, you kind of think about like, well, that in of itself can become like a very big initiative and a big effort to, you know, have like, hey, these are a set of books that are on this specific interest topic. We're gonna have, you know, these group discussions, presentations, and
Beyond
I mean,
those.
yeah, it's like there's so many like, examples of things we could do that could potentially be unique to us, and I just think bringing like our mission statement, you know, community was like a big element of it, right? And allowing that interaction, because look, reading is an individual activity, right? You grab your book and you go read. But the sort of like this participation element that you just described is like a pretty exciting way to bring people together that are on that shared interest.
The historical nature of the place, the historical oddities of this little village are so interesting, whether it's here or the way Greenbrae is attached to here too.
Right.
And I mean, it goes back forever too, and it involves everything from, you know, Janis Joplin to our beatnik artists to, you know, all this stuff that's, you know, like people can look at it as being very nostalgic, even that sense of place in those developments of those neighborhoods. But if you push that out into the future and realize that, you know, how do you maintain that sort of sense of place that goes into a future that is wrapped into something that would be embraced by this Larkspur Commons library? It just makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it's
it just adds a different flavor and excitement. Even the
Yeah.
way he just described Larkspur and the surrounding, you know, cities is like, you know, I guarantee you, we could 99% of people probably wouldn't be able to poetically state it, you know, that was the way that was just stated.
Yeah, that was good, and makes me think, you know, some small areas, I don't know if anyone's really done like oral histories here. Because there's a lot of people who've lived here a long time and have like a wealth of knowledge. And may not be with us much longer, and to have some libraries have done like story type events where people can kind of, you know, have that for future generations, but also it's eloquent, you're excited about it, and
there's that little hole in the wall gallery that I just saw the other day. that I went into and I was talking to the artists in there. And I was telling him about that movie Impact, which you guys have probably seen, right? You know, that it's a film noir movie, which is 1949, and it shows downtown Larkspur.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, wow, what the hell? You know, when you realize, you know, it shows Perry's as the home and the gas station that's next to Perry's where the ice cream place is and stuff. But you really do get that sense of place in there. You know, it's a black and white movie from a different era. but.
Well, that'd be a fascinating talk also to freeze frame some of that, or, you know,
Oh,
show the
yeah.
film
There's
and
quite a
have a
few.
discussion, you
That's
know.
quite a
things
They
like
few scenes.
drive off from this building in the fire trucks
There
and
are
stuff.
quite a few scenes that are just in downtown.
Oh, yeah.
If you see the whole,
Which one?
it's called
It's called
Impact,
Impact.
but you have to make sure that you get the full version, not the clip, not the
Yeah.
one that has been
It's-
edited.
Yeah,
What's
it's supposedly a town in Idaho,
Okay.
but it says Larks, you know, it says right there, 1949, as you're going right by the,
No way.
It's
Lark
just
Creek
that
Inn,
a
yeah.
lot of scene
Yeah,
at the
no,
entrance
it's-
of Madrone.
Yeah, it shows, you know, Dark Park,
Right.
somebody driving down.
That's sweet.
That's cool. Wasn't Dirty Harry filmed, or like it?
Yeah,
Up
over
on
in
the-
at the quarry over at Larkspur Landing there, yeah.
Amazing.
But there's, you know, that, but you don't want to get caught up in this nostalgia, like,
yeah.
oh, we just want the old library to move into the new library
Yeah.
kind of mentality.
No,
You
no,
gotta
no,
make
I-
sure
I
it's
think-
like,
I think
you
it's
build
like-
on it,
Yeah,
you know,
I just,
somehow.
this is what I was just saying, like, this can, you know, go in so many different directions. I just, generating that, you know, element of, excitement, enthusiasm for wanting to not only see the like, everyone has a certain, you know, already a perception of what the library is and what it's there for.
Mhm.
And so I think whether we like it or not, I mean, most of what engagement and participation we get out of people's existing sort of mode of behavior and, you know, and so I think is there an opportunity for us to just kind of take a step toward, you know, something different and unique?
It's the ideal time to do
It's
it.
not so
you
much
know?
different as it is really just taking what is there and refining it. It's,
Yeah, building.
instead of doing the same
Right.
old and kind of running on fumes on habit, just really distilling, I cannot see another word, what makes it important and relevant for those people who live here. And I think we will only get that by talking to more people, by getting feedback, focus groups, inviting various groups to come and let us know what is it that they appreciate about, you know,
Just when you said that sweet Little League, you know,
Right.
and you think,
Yeah,
yeah, that
right.
is true.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I didn't have sons, I had daughters who played basketball, but that was sweet too, you know, when you realize those
They
kinds
keep
of
on
things.
it.
But, you know, they played softball and stuff, and you think, God, it's really solid, you know, community core. That, you know, this library represents a lot.
yeah, and
And somehow you could do something in the spring, I don't know, when you launch the new start a season, I don't know when it
Opening
starts,
day.
like.
Oh,
but,
Opening
spring,
day.
Yeah,
You know, spring,
yeah,
you know, do
March.
something
Little
where,
League parade is March, you know, you have all the major, I mean, even basketball, CYO is very special, but
Yeah.
it's like, all these things are like, but there's just something there for us to try to harness this milestone of having this new building. And then I like Armel's point around, like, it's not something separate, different, but it's like building on top of all the great stuff that we've already had, that we've already, you know, built, but that it kind of furthers, you know, it kind of pushes us into a place that's like unique to us and the community really attaches to. And that I think is like, if we can hit, you know, that sort of sweet spot, the way that Little League does, and that like, then we won, you know, Joe Wag is like a, you know, Field of Dreams kind of a thing, right? And
Yeah.
this is,
also Sandlot.
Right.
Field of Dreams,
yeah.
Field of Dreams meets the
Yeah,
Sandlot.
that's right, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Sandy
exactly.
Spears.
Yeah, except it's locked up, so you can't just go play it,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but yes.
Yeah.
So that's our,
But Andy and Jonathan will be good contributors to this too.
totally,
I can
yeah.
see Andy.
I can see a world
Lend
where,
his
you know,
eye.
we can do focus group, but even between the board members here, right, we can easily each go and interview 5, 10 citizens of
Oh,
Larkspur.
yeah.
You know,
A friend would be an extremely good resource,
right.
because, especially with their new board, which is, very dynamic, as you can tell.
yeah, I mean, I wanna
I
meet
mean-
this, I wanna meet this group.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
we can really get from, because they almost are they're on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, just getting from them, it would be good to see, I think that there are people out there who have exactly in their hand the ID that we are looking for. We just need to go find them.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
to hear them.
Yeah, a lot of it could just be almost community really driven,
Yeah,
you know, they're
absolutely.
deciding and not.
But I do
Us.
think that our communication mission is key to that, because we cannot come up
Mhm.
with this out of thin air.
No.
We can only find it by listening and by hearing other people. And the more we reach out, the more we have communication, the more we invite people to come here and join the crowds here tonight who want to talk about the library. And our first step is to really drive home the fact that this library is for everyone.
Yeah.
It's just that, and once everybody is there, we'll find it, what makes it good.
So
Great.
do you have a way to put that in the future, Jim?
I think Armel's articulated it, I think we can just, maybe the way to synthesize the entry. I guess, so one is the continuation of the, communication goals. And then the second one, what we're just talking about is perhaps a,
Community.
yeah,
question mark.
yeah, I think it's community feedback and, or leveraging community feedback for, I kind of want to use the word differential, what's that?
For our utopia.
For just I wanted to kind of have this element of the library services matching the new library launch, where we have a visible, true sort of like new, something that's new, that matches the excitement of a new building that we can go out with. And how do we basically collect feedback, have a way of shaping that feedback in creating that additional differentiation for us when the new libraries are open and operating, and we have some runway here.
It'd probably be, might be put words in your mouth, but like a program or a service,
Yeah.
like some specific.
Yeah,
This is.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
maybe a program or service that
But
is
that's-
developed.
That's right,
really
that's gonna hit a nerve, and like, you talk about, you walk around Larkspur and say, by the way, when the new library opens up, we have this new program that's coming online. You're like,
Let's call it, let's make that, item Larkspur based, not community, because community is everywhere, but we want to be specifically Larkspur. So let's use the word Larkspur, let's say Larkspur focus, or Larkspur first, or
Just kind of know what you mean, you can always revise the.
yeah.
But,
you
you know,
got- I think you
yeah.
Yeah. I think
Like
you
for
got-
first or
you got
whatever,
the-
but-
remember.
But we got the,
Finding Larkspur.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so
Larkspur
the
focus.
elements are, yeah, like, we want this new service program that makes Larkspur very excited to not just see the building, but participate and be part of the library. And so that's how do we, grab this moment, right, of having something new and exciting and be able to pull people in.
it's a unique opportunity. We'll be able to have this amount of excitement
Oh, yeah,
always,
That's,
No,
you know.
that's
No.
true.
we're gonna get foot traffic, that first year will probably break records, you know? And it's like can we really grab onto that?
Yeah, it's a hot air balloon moment.
Like,
Mhm.
exciting, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it.
I think we're looking good
Mhm.
there.
Damon, thank you
So
so
next-
much.
Next meeting date,
Next meeting day.
July, something. Ugh, it's gonna be hard.
Did you have any ideas about next meeting date, Damon?
I had just a brief email, I'll just throw this out, when Andy said he couldn't come. We had a little quick stage if we were gonna meet in July and August in summer.
Huh.
I noticed in the past, you'd taken usually August, it's hard with COVID or
I
whatever.
think July
But-
8th works for me.
July, works for me to meet
Yeah.
too, but just wanted to throw.
I honestly, so one of the things that like my view is we probably, if we wanna have something bold and ambitious and like really exciting for the community, I think it's gonna require some long lead time to do the kind of heavy lifting. Because you're gonna snap your fingers and we'll be in a new building. So I'd much rather, to the extent we can, even if some of us have to miss it, I think like the rest kind of carry it on.
I think you'll be okay as long as you have three.
I can be here on the 8th. I'm
I
almost
can be here.
positive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what's happening.
And we can get one more,
Okay.
at least.
I guess like, it's a little weird being advisory if you have two, I guess two, even with two, you could,
No, we need to have three.
It'd be nice to have three.
yeah.
This is the,
But we'll-
but
we can
let's
check.
just schedule it and make.
And then see who,
Yeah.
who
Mayor
can
said,
come.
let's push to make it happen. If it cannot happen, then
Then we'll
So
read
we'll
it.
say-
fortunate, but we
and then
we
if-
just cannot give up before we try.
Okay, and we do have two, sounds like
Yes,
highly probable,
Yes.
I'm
and
in,
I'm here.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
like I said, this is, like, I'm already piloting a program on the home front.
Right, yeah, you have a little,
Yeah, I got a little reading
A big test
pilot
group.
going on.
Oh, yeah, that's a
you know?
good one, to
All right, so
maybe we can
I-
build on that might be
I
the,
move to
that
adjourn the
might be the
meeting.
one.
we can adjourn. I'll
Yes.
Oh,
second.
I
Yeah.
move-
Okay, aye,
Aye.
meeting's adjourned.
okay, so July eighth at 6.
So for my son, I coach,